Gang Ghetto, what's going on? Hopefully my sound is better now. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Ooh, what's going on? I want to tell you what's going on. Seriously though, hope all is well with you on your end. It's your boy Ghetto. Happy Sabbath and all that. Happy Sabbath and all that. Yeah, man. I'm not gonna belabor the point. You know, we here for Too High for Kool and the Gang, part 4. We gonna take care of a little business, then we gonna get right to it. Let's go.
Disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
But the thing that scares black people the most are niggas and nigga moments. Tom Dubois was as far from a nigga as a black man could be. Mystique Meter knew that every black man's spirit is weakened during a nigga moment.
What the? Oh, come on, you nincompoop! You can't do that! Hey! Come on!
Nigga moments can happen to any black man at any time.
Hey! That was my space! I had my blinker on and everything! Fuck you, punk-ass, bougie-ass, hook-ass nigga! I'll beat your motherfucking sadiddy-ass, nigga! Don't never in your life ever try to holler at me, nigga! Fuck with me, nigga, I'll be done pop the trunk on your bitch-ass, nigga! Get my motherfucking Uzi, nigga! What did you say, nigga? You know what?
Fair use, fair use, fair use.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Talk to him.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Oh.
The numbers are alarming. It affects about 80% of all women by the age of 50. Our Dr. Jennifer Ashton is here with more. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
In this morning's Health Watch, understanding HPV, the human papillomavirus, the numbers are alarming. It affects about 80% of all women by the age of 50. Our Dr. Jennifer Ashton is here with more. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Julie. You know, HPV may be the most common sexually transmitted infection, but it's also the least understood. So we sat down with 4 young women to talk about their thoughts and concerns.
I think it's important that people start talking about it and start being honest. How are you? I'd like to ask the doctor, if you do get HPV, is it curable or will it always be there?
Coffee and HPV discussion?
This is something that we all need to know because in the end, 80% of us
Not a coffee and HPV discussion. Come on, y'all.
are gonna get it.
What do you think some of the myths are about HPV?
That you're promiscuous if you have it.
Yeah.
Because it just takes one time, one person, and you don't even have to have sex.
Exactly. And not even necessarily actual sexual intercourse, but just skin-to-skin contact.
So hold on. So I have to get naked and touch the genitalia area of somebody else. Let me tell y'all something right now. I'm a what I would call a good brother. I'm saying other people could have their opinion on it. But ain't no way I'm getting skin to skin and I ain't getting in the skin. I don't know what we talk about over here. Let's stop it. Y'all is being frisky and being risky. Shout out to this might be risky. Let's go.
You can get it.
Up until a year ago, I thought
They being frisky. That might be risky. They being frisky and that might be risky. Let's get to it.
None of my friends had it. And then when I started talking to them, 4 or 5 of my friends said, oh, I have HPV or I had HPV.
Does it make you feel better now knowing that HPV is so common? Do you think it lessens the social stigma?
I think it does, because it made me less.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all remember the other episode I did where the lady who used to work for Planned Parenthood and would go around from school to school talked about how it's literally her job to go into school and make your children more comfortable behaving in a very adult-like sexual fashion. By the end of her classes that she was just often substituting in for the day, they would be very familiar with all of the particular adult language, many different moves and techniques, anal, deep throat, all that good stuff. And she would be talking to children as young as 8, 9, and 10 years old about this. So it definitely seems like there is a organizing of the energies around getting children very much into sexual behaviors very, very early and getting them all diseased up very, very early and getting them all as patients of the CDC and Planned Parenthood very, 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 very early in life. Maybe I'm bugging. Seems like there's an agenda going on. Let's go.
Embarrassed.
So you have HPV. It was picked up on a routine GYN visit.
I just went and got a pap smear, and then, everything's fine, and then they just say, hi,
24 years old.
Elizabeth, you have precancerous cells on your cervix. And I'm like, I don't know what this means. This was like 3 years ago. Like, I had.
You don't know what it means, my dear? How you don't know what it means? I'm not trying to be silly. I'm just trying to figure that out. How does she not know what it means for her to have that? I think that these people sometimes try to play games and carry on like they don't know nothing. They ain't seen nothing. Don't ask them nothing. They don't know what to do. They ain't seen her. Have you seen her? Tell me, have you seen her? They ain't seen her. They don't know where she at. They don't know what to do. They don't know what you're talking about. And I think it's a joke sometimes. But we gonna get into it. Let's keep going.
No idea.
How did you feel emotionally when you got that call?
I was shattered. I just started sobbing. I didn't know if my life was over. I didn't know if I had cancer.
The good news is most people, 90% of healthy people, clear this virus on their own. Might take up to 3 years, which is why they probably said, we're going to follow you really closely. But the majority of cases go away on their own. They don't become cancer.
Really? Well, from everything I've heard, once you have HPV, you have it the rest of your life. Is that true? Like,
well,
can it
remember
go away?
also that HPV, you may have heard or learned that there's over 100 different subtypes. So sometimes it can stay latent in your body, dormant, kind of asleep, and be reactivated much later in life. But most of the time, you clear that type.
Sometimes it can stay dormant in your body for a lot of years and then get reactivated. And this is what y'all want, right? This is what y'all want, right? I mean, that's what we doing, right? Let's keep going. Let me run this back a little bit.
How do you feel emotionally when you got that call?
My God.
GYN visit.
I just went and got a pap smear, and because it made me.
Knowing that HPV is so common, do you think it lessens the social stigma?
I think it does. Because it
No,
made
it
me
doesn't.
less embarrassed.
So you
Fair
have
use, man.
HPV. It was picked up on a routine GYN
Yeah,
visit.
I just went and got a pap smear, and then, you know, everything's fine, and then they just say, "Hi, Elizabeth, you have precancerous cells on your cervix," and I'm like, I don't know what this means. This was like 3 years ago. Like, I had no idea.
How did you feel emotionally when you got that call?
I
What
was shattered. I just started sobbing. I didn't know if my life was over. I didn't know if I had cancer.
The good news is most people, 90% of healthy people, clear this virus on their own. Might take up to 3 years, which is why they probably said, we're going to follow you really closely. But the majority of cases go away on their own. They don't become cancer.
Really? Well, from everything I've heard, once you have HPV, you have it the rest of your life. Is that true? Like,
Well,
can it go
remember
away?
also that HPV, you may have heard or learned that there's
She made a skip on that. You wasn't supposed to ask that. She made a hesitate. Jesus.
that call.
I
What
was shattered. I just started sobbing. I didn't know if my life was over. I didn't know if I had cancer.
The good news is
it
most
is.
people, 90% of healthy people, clear this virus on their own. Might take up to 3 years, which is why they probably said, we're going to follow you really closely. But the majority of cases go away on their own. They don't become cancer.
Really? Well, from everything I've heard, once you have HPV, you have it the rest of your life. Is that true? Like,
Well,
can it go
remember
away?
also that HPV, you may have heard or learned that
You may have
there's
heard.
over 100 different subtypes. So sometimes it can stay latent in your
Oh,
body,
sometimes it does
dormant,
stay
kind of
forever.
asleep, and be reactivated
Sometimes
much
it do
later
stay
in life.
forever.
But most of the time, you clear that type, but then again, there are 99 plus other types that you can still be exposed to.
What are the
My
effects
God.
on fertility
My
with
God.
HPV?
Well,
my God, my
that's
God,
another
my
great
God.
question. Obviously, in extreme cases, if it goes on to cause cervical cancer, that can have an impact on a woman's fertility. But just being
Impact
infected
on
or
your
exposed to the
fertility,
HPV
ladies.
virus in and of itself, for the
How are you? I'd like to ask
Let's
the
run it
doctor,
back.
if you do get HPV, is it
Fair use.
curable or will it always be there?
coffee and HPV discussion.
Coffee and HPV.
This is something that we all need to know because in the end, 80% of us are going to get it.
What do you think some of the
Coffee and
myths are about
HPV. Let's
HPV?
go.
That you're promiscuous if you have it.
Yeah.
Because it just takes.
So, man, let's just put our cards on the table. How did you contract HPV since you're not promiscuous? How did you get it? Are you sexually active, ma'am? Have you had multiple partners, ma'am? You're just in your early 20s, ma'am. How many partners have you had? Let's go.
One time, one person, and you don't even have to have sex.
Exactly. And not
You
even
don't even have to. It's when you start digging into the weeds of the science like that, it's because you trying to cover something up. Stop it. You didn't have. Stop it. I don't want to hear that, ma'am. Cut it out. I'm sure you don't have to, but is that your case, ma'am? Is that what happened in your case, ma'am?
necessarily actual sexual intercourse, but just skin-to-skin contact, you can get it.
Up until a year
So
ago,
we
I
were
thought
just
none of my
bumping
friends had
skins
had
together.
it. And then when I started talking to them, you
All
know,
right.
4 or 5 of my friends said, you know, oh, I have HPV or I had HPV.
Does it make you feel better now knowing that HPV is so common? Do you think it lessens the
Does
social
it make
stigma?
you feel better that you have a disease? Because several other people have it too. Does it make you feel better to have a disease? Because several other people have it too. I guess it should, right? I mean, technically, why not? Why shouldn't that make you feel better? Let's go.
I think it does because it made me less embarrassed.
So you have HPV. It was picked up on a routine GYN
Yeah,
visit.
I just went and got a pap smear and then, you know.
But if you wasn't being promiscuous, mama, what did you have to be embarrassed about?
Everything's fine, and then they just say, "Hi, Elizabeth, you have precancerous cells on your cervix," and I'm like, I don't know what this means. This was like 3 years ago. Like, I had no idea.
How did you feel emotionally when you got that call?
I was shattered. I just started sobbing. I didn't know if my life was over. I didn't know if I had cancer.
The good news is
so you just
most
been out there
people, 90%
giving it up loosely
of
for
healthy
3
people
years.
clear this virus on their own.
since
take up to 3 years, which is why they probably said, we're going to follow you really closely. But the majority of cases go away on their own. They don't become cancer.
Really? Well, from everything I've heard, once you have HPV, you have it the rest of your life. Is that true?
Well, remember also that HPV,
go ahead,
you may have heard or learned that there's over 100 different subtypes.
Don't let them get away with that.
Once you have HPV, you have it the rest of your life. Is that true? Like,
well,
can it go
remember
away?
also
I like
that
Rebecca
HPV,
Bowe. I like
you
her.
may have heard or learned that there's over
she's good with me.
100 different subtypes. So sometimes it can stay latent in your
know
body,
that's right.
dormant, kind of asleep, and be reactivated much later in life. But most of the time, you clear that type, but then again, there are 99 plus other types that you can still be exposed to.
What are the effects on fertility with HPV?
Well, that's another great question. Obviously, in extreme cases, if it goes on to cause cervical cancer, that can have an impact on a woman's fertility. But just being infected or exposed to the HPV virus in and of itself, for the vast majority of young women, when they clear the virus on their own, doesn't really have any known impact on fertility down the road.
But what if it's been 3 years and it comes back? Does that mean?
When you're talking about something that's microscopic, that can have no symptoms, that is so common, then you see why it's so easy for people to get it. And that's why I think one of the biggest take homes is you have to see a gynecologist every year. It's really important. Thanks so much. You guys are really
all the time. There's a little bit of it's been too long. Please welcome Dr. Marjorie Dixon to keep us up to date on a topic that is not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, it is super prevalent, HPV. We hear about it all the time. There's a little bit of controversy surrounding the vaccine for this. Yeah. So let's just start with the very simple, what is it? And how prevalent is it?
Okay, so HPV stands for human papillomavirus. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
And human papillomavirus is what we are now understanding is at the root of cervical cancer. 70% of cervical cancers are linked to particular strains of human papillomavirus, which is kind of radical when you think about it, because there have been one particular tool that we've used in the fight against cervical cancer, and that has been the pap smear. Right. So it's part of the well women exam. People go for their pap smear. We've changed the frequency with which people have to have pap smeared under certain circumstances. But now we're understanding that actually the changes at the cervix and the development of cancer are actually linked to an infection. The problem with it is that it's very prevalent, this infection. So most people in this room have been exposed to HPV. Most people having been sexually active have been exposed to HPV at some point.
Right.
In their life. So 75% of the people in this room have had an exposure to HPV. The good news is that most people's immune system deals with it. So
it just goes away.
It can go away. So that's why sometimes people go to the gynecologist, they have a change on their pap smear, and they say, well, come back in 6 months, we'll recheck it. And then you go back and it's gone, and then you figure it was cleared. But the fact that you had a cervical change is actually linked to the HPV. And not only is it linked to cervical cancers, but it's also linked to genital and anal warts.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea behind understanding that it's linked to infection now, and human papillomavirus is what we are now understanding is at the root of cervical cancer. 70% of cervical cancers are linked to particular strains of human papillomavirus, which is kind of radical when you think about it, because there have been one particular tool that we've used in the fight against cervical cancer, and that has been the pap smear. Right. So it's part of the well women exam. People go for their pap smear. We've changed the frequency with which people have to have pap smeared under certain circumstances. But now we're understanding that actually the changes at the cervix and the development of cancer are actually linked to an infection. The problem with it is that it's very prevalent, this infection. So most people in this room have been exposed to HPV. Most people having been sexually active have been exposed to HPV at some point.
Right.
In their life. So 75% of the people in this room have had an exposure to HPV. The good news is that most people's immune system deals with it. So
it just goes away.
It can go away. So that's why sometimes people go to the gynecologist, they have a change on their pap smear, and they say, well, come back in 6 months, we'll recheck it. And then you go back and it's gone, and then you figure it was cleared. But the fact that you had a cervical change is actually linked to the HPV. And not only is it linked to cervical cancers, but it's also linked to genital and anal warts. Right? So the idea behind understanding that it's linked to infection now, this human papillomavirus, is, well, how do we deal with infections and things that are communicable? Vaccination.
We vaccinate them.
We vaccinate.
Okay, so first of all,
we
can
vaccinate.
you be a
We
male
don't practice safer sex. We don't stop having anonymous partners, promiscuous partners, multiple partners, and ray. No. How dare you police my body? We vaccinate. How dare you police my body? Sorry if that was too loud for a second there. We vaccinate. How dare you? How dare you police my body? How dare you? You don't have the right to police my body. Don't you dare. Let's keep going.
And or a female carrier. Do only women have this? Men have this too?
No, it's not unique to women. It's anybody who's sexually active. So you can get, there are a whole bunch of strains, but we know that the strains that are linked to cervical cancer are particularly HPV 16 and 18, and those that are linked to genital warts are the 6 and 11.
Okay.
So that's why the vaccine, it's a tetravalent vaccine, so it captures 4 proteins, tetravalent, and those are the ones that are particularly linked. So if people got vaccinated, individuals, males and females, were vaccinated at a young enough age to get a robust immune response to it, so the younger the better.
Right.
And before they are sexually active, so before they've ever seen HPV, you could potentially eradicate these kinds of cancers that are linked. And for women, particularly, it's cervical cancer.
So that answers the question of why you have to get it while you're young.
Exactly.
So preteen, they're saying,
and
is when they want to give out the vaccinations.
Exactly.
To women, to girls and boys?
Well, in some jurisdictions to girls and boys, and then in the province of Ontario, it's just to girls right now. So there's a funded program in Ontario for grade 8 girls. Yeah. And it's offered in the school by public health nurses, and it's 3 shots. So they get immunized at 0, 2 months later, and then 6 months later.
Right.
And the point of this is when they are young, your immune response to the 3, you have to have all of the 3 vaccinations. Your immune response is much greater.
No. Give your child that vaccine at your own peril, guys. I'm not a doctor. You talk to your doctor. You do what you feel is right. No, gang. No. Hell to the no. It's like instead of teaching people to do the right thing, we just want to let them do the wrong thing and then figure out how to throw Band-Aids on it. What are we doing as a society where this is how we respond to things? Come on, y'all. We gotta do better than this. This doesn't make any sense. We gotta figure out a better way to address stuff than just being freak nasty and then trying to figure out how to get off from the freak off. to borrow a modern day terminology, how to get off from the freak off. You know what I mean? Like, because I might have got off at said, never mind. Now I got to get off after I got off. This is just a mess. Y'all don't see that this is a mess. This is a mess, family. What are we even doing at this point? What are we even doing? We know better. Let's do better. Please. I'm just saying. Let's do better.
more robust when you're younger, and before, of course, ever seeing the protein, the problem. Right. And therefore, people will get a better protection against HPV if they're immunized young. And I think what the difficulty, and it's had a lot of stigma and controversy in the population in general, is because we talk about sexual activity. And for women, parents, to think about their daughters with sexual activity when they're in grade 8, it's kind of, you know, a little upsetting and disturbing. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you think of it as you can potentially prevent the development of cervical cancer in your child, in your daughter and son, your daughters and sons. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Like, I'll line my daughter up for it. If she could get it sooner, I would.
Right. Are there any threats, though? Is there something that people are thinking this vaccine is going to do to them physically that is holding people back from wanting to embrace this?
Right. So whenever you introduce a vaccine, firstly, I mean, it's by the the protective agencies that go at looking at getting vaccinations accepted. I mean, this is very important. Health Canada has approved it. So, and especially because you're giving it to young people, you really have to have the standard high before it's accepted to be administered. The people worry about the adverse effects of it. So whenever you get a vaccination, I mean, this is not just HPV vaccination. Any vaccination, they worry about the preservatives in it. And are there antibiotics? Am I exposing my child to something that might threaten their life? But they had these studies, 700,000 doses of it have already been distributed between 2007 and 2011. Right. And the adverse effects that are generally reported associated with this vaccination are dizziness, pain at the site of injection, and some redness around the site of injection. It's not to say that there may not have been reported a bad case of a bad reaction, but these are incidental reports, and then they sometimes can get blown out. So I think it's really important for people.
What do you mean they can get blown out? So blown out of proportion? Man, so you saying people should take a vaccine that gives people bad reactions because, oh, people are blowing it out of proportion? What? All of this, and no one has yet to mention, you know, just not being as promiscuous. No one has mentioned anything about the problems. I think we got to stop with this. This is sick. This is really sick, guys. Let's keep going.
All of this rigorous testing and then finally being approved and then actually being introduced in a program, it doesn't just happen overnight. This is a lengthy process over years of time, and it's a public health concern that's significant enough that not only has it been accepted in Canada across its provincial jurisdictions, but also worldwide.
Right. Okay, that is worth a conversation for sure with your physician. Thanks for the info.
You're welcome.
Let's go to break. More coming up. Stay with us.
Yeah, let's take a quick intermission, family. Be right back.
I'll be real with you, and I know nobody gives a fuck what I think anyway.
Fair use.
I'm not for abortion. Oh, shut up, nigga. I'm not for it, but I'm not against it either. It all depends on who I get pregnant. I don't care, I'll tell you right now, I don't care what your religious beliefs are or anything. If you have a dick, you need to shut the fuck up on this one. Seriously. This is theirs. The right to choose is their unequivocal right. Not only do I believe they have the right to choose, I believe that they shouldn't have to consult anybody except for a physician about how they exercise that right. Gentlemen, that is fair. And ladies, to be fair to us, I also believe if you decide to have the baby, a man should not have to pay.
Where did that come from?
A license plate says it's from the federal government.
Attention urban poor. The Federal Health Department, in conjunction with the Center for Minority Control, is here today with complimentary flu shots. Complimentary means free.
Free needles? God is good.
Hey, whoa. What the hell, Hop, are you people doing? Have you forgotten all your conspiracy learnings? Listen, the government uses projects to test all kinds of poisons. Syphilis, crack, the McChitlins.
Oh, those chitlins made me mix sick.
Now you see what I'm talking about.
Hold on, everybody. This is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we, the people. I'm sure there's nothing to fear.
Thank you, Mrs. Stubbs.
How do you know my name?
Because we're your friend. Now come on over here and drop your pants.
No, Muriel, it's a trick.
It's just a flu shot. Don't listen to that fool.
Aha! Flu, F-L-U. Fool, F-U-L. Coincidence? I don't think so. Come on, people. Let's tell them they can take their flu shots and shove them up their arsenioles.
Yeah, just leave me my Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, and Social Security, and I'll be fine with no help from nobody. Yeah.
Fair use, fair use, fair use.
Where the hell is he?
At 17 we fell in love, high school sweethearts. Love was so brand new. We took the vows of man and wife, forever for life. I remember how we made our way, a little patience, the times we prayed. I can't imagine that the love is through, feeling the pain, girl, when you lose. But oh, it's too hot, lady. I gotta run for shelter, gotta run for shade. It's too hot, lady. Gotta cool this anger, what a mess we have made. So long ago, you were my love, oh my love. Flying high, we never took the time to stop.
We back, family. Let's get into some stuff, right? A sexually transmitted disease is killing babies in Texas. Sexually transmitted disease is killing babies in Texas. Oh, this is a bad copy. Forgive me. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up the other way. Support the movement. Do check one more thing out while I pull this up. Hold on, gang. Smokey, sing to him.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Fair use, family. Hope you guys are entertained, enlightened, educated. I know some of this stuff can be kind of heavy sometimes, but you know, we got to get through it. We got to educate the people, man. We got to let people know what is going on out here. So this is from the University of Texas Health, Houston, University of Texas Physicians Hospital. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Forgive me. Let's go. Let's dig in. Fighting the rise of syphilis in Houston, in Texas, and beyond by Vicky Powers of UT Physicians, updated September 5th, 2023. The Houston Health Department issued a syphilis outbreak call in July 2023 regarding the 128% increase in Houston. Statistics show a 9-fold rise locally in congenital syphilis, or babies born with it. It's definitely not a top-ranking honor to be proud of. Texans lead the nation in babies born with syphilis, congenital syphilis, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Locally, syphilis cases in Houston have increased 128% since 2019, and numbers are the highest ever nationally in more than 70 years. Texas is number one. Texas is number one. Texas is number one. And it's crazy when you see that they doing things like having all of these different events down there in Texas right now. Mocha Fest and all that. And people like, oh, that's not what people go to Mocha Fest for. If you go into Mocha Fest to do those things, you know, that's on you. But people really go to Mocha Fest to network. When you look at the advertisements for Mocha Fest, that is not what they advertising. But we'll go there later. We'll go there later. 1/4 of the nation's syphilis cases came from Texas. 1/4, 25% of the nation's syphilis cases came from Texas. And you see, this be the stuff that people don't understand when they talk, and they be like, oh, the whole country, and it's millions and billions of people in the whole country. Right. But if you take the whole country and the hundreds of millions of people in the whole country and say, out of those hundreds of millions of people in the whole country, 25% of all the entire nation's cases of syphilis came from this one state, and then you keep digging into the numbers and find out that not only did 25% of all the nation's new syphilis cases come from this one state, out of all the hundreds of millions of people that live in the country, this state got 25% of all the cases. But then the disparity between the amount of those cases that come from the so-called black community versus everybody else, then you start to see how the problem really is very bad. But people don't want to deal with that. People want to pretend like the problem is nothing. All right, then. 1/4 of the nation's syphilis cases come from Texas, said Irene Stafford, MD, OBGYN, and maternal fetal medicine specialist with UT Physicians. Stafford has always had a special interest in perinatal infectious disease, specifically syphilis, because of its effects on fetuses and newborns. If physicians can get patients screened for syphilis and treated in a timely manner, Stafford said it will help prevent congenital syphilis. The sooner a pregnant woman can get tested and treated, the more likely we are to have a completely treated woman, and the baby will not be impacted at all, said Stafford, associate professor in the Division of Maternal Fetal Medicine in the McGovern Medical School at UT Health Houston. People need to realize there is a lot of syphilis in our community right now. It's all hands on deck. Oh, the doctor just being sensational and all this and that. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because knowledge came and they rejected. Can't make this shit up. Article continues. The Houston Health Department issued a press release in July 2023 reporting a syphilis outbreak in Houston regarding the 128% increase. Statistics show a 9-fold rise locally just in congenital syphilis. 16 cases in 2016 to 151 cases in 2021. Jesus. And you remember how you got to read this stat, guys, and understand. So it was probably 16 in 2016, plus another 25 in 2017, plus another 45, 50 in 2018, plus then 65, 70 in 2019, 75, 80 in 2020, 85, 90 in 2021. Oh, excuse me. 110 and 120 in 2020, now 151 cases in 2021. It keeps going up every year, and you're stacking all of these children on top of one another, because the children who were born with congenital syphilis last year don't disappear out the records and don't magically stop having to be treated for this condition. This is crazy, man. And Stafford's maternal fetal, like, some of these children will have to deal with this for the rest of their lives. In Stafford's maternal fetal medicine clinic, she sees 2 to 3 patients a week testing positive for syphilis, and it's 100% treatable with a penicillin injection. When not treated, syphilis in pregnancy can lead to stillbirth and newborn death. Babies born with syphilis can have blood problems, bone problems, inflammation in the organs, neurological conditions like blindness, deafness, meningitis, developmental delays, and even seizures. Understanding the challenges, like other sexually transmitted infections. Stafford says syphilis disproportionately affects minority, underserved populations based on a variety of factors. People living in areas without easy access to healthcare clinics, high immigrant population, and neighborhood clinics closed as a result of COVID-19. Why does a high immigrant migration lead to a high rate in STIs? Are y'all having intercourse with the high immigrant population? If you are, so be it. But I don't know. Damn, that's crazy. Okay. People living in areas without easy access to healthcare. How about people living in areas without easy access to morality? People living in areas without easy access to a butt whooping from their pops. People living in areas without easy access to get the knuckle sandwich from their granddad, or to get popped upside the head by their grandma. Like, let's talk about that. People living in areas where auntie don't crack the belt no more, and where you can't tell somebody, oh, I know who your parents is. I'll make sure to let them know I seen you doing so-and-so and such and such. People living in areas where the neighbor can't whoop your kid no more, and then bring your kid home to you, and then you whoop them again after they done told you what they saw your kid doing. Let's talk about that being an issue and that affecting the numbers of STIs we see in the community. Because if we don't start actually getting back to how the neighborhood can start to quell off and control some of these things, all we're doing is watching a fire continue to grow out of control. In addition to the minority underserved population, syphilis and other STIs are also on the rise among adolescents. Again, this article is from the University of Texas Health Houston / the University of Texas Physicians. So if you have an issue with the article, this is where you can go bring your issue up at the University of Texas at Houston. Understanding the challenges, like other sexually transmitted infections, STIs, Stafford said syphilis disproportionately affects minority, underserved populations based on a variety of factors. People living in areas without easy... Oh, I'm sorry. I read that already. Making a difference. Stafford is excited to receive a $3.3 million grant for a multi-center study modernizing perinatal syphilis testing. That provides syphilis patient surveillance and care in one place. If a syphilis screening hasn't been done at intake or 28 weeks for pregnant patients, it alerts physicians when they log in. This is their new system that they're working on and updating to try to help combat the issue. Focusing on the patient, Stafford encourages sexual health to be a priority for every health visit. It is not any less important than cholesterol or diabetes. Physicians need to promote screening for STIs annually to get ahead of the problem. Of course, physicians shouldn't promote a lack of promiscuity, though, right? Because that's like telling people what to do. So you could tell them to come get tested. You can tell them what to do in that regard, but you can't tell them to stop having so many anonymous partners, so many partners fast and not really knowing who they are, their history or their background, not knowing what type of infections they may or may not have, what type of people they may or may not have had interactions with. Don't tell them to be more knowledgeable about the people they choose to allow so close into their sacred space. No. Don't judge people in that way. Let people do what they want. Let's just figure out how the way to make sure this fire doesn't grow any bigger or any faster than we can try to mitigate. This shit crazy. Pardon my French, but this is crazy, guys. We keep the fight going because this infection is really a challenge, mainly because it's quiet. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't burn. The majority of my patients don't even know they have it because it's quiet. It's silent. The goal for the syphilis program is to follow a patient-centered care approach where Stafford can talk to the patients, educate them, conduct an ultrasound counseling session, and treat them all in one day. This is crazy. TexasPublicRadio.org. Texas has the nation's highest rate of babies born with syphilis, an STD that can cause debilitating effects and death if untreated. Cases of a preventable cases of a preventable STD passed to newborns during pregnancy are increasing in Texas, which already has the nation's highest rates of congenital syphilis per data from the CDC, or the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. A 2021 state health department report shows that from 2017 to 2019, Texas saw a 218.1% increase in reported cases. Congenital syphilis can lead to debilitating and even fatal outcomes in newborns, including liver, bone, and neurological damage, skeletal and facial deformities, deafness, and blindness. Up to 40% of babies with congenital syphilis are stillborn or die early. Up to 40%. More than 80% of Texas cases of congenital syphilis have been reported in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and surrounding areas. More than 80% of Texas's cases of congenital syphilis have been reported in Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. Guys, who lives in Houston, Texas? Dallas, San Antonio. What are we talking about? Between 2016 and 2019, most babies with congenital syphilis were born to so-called Black and Hispanic women, guys. So 80% of Texas. So Texas has 24% of the entire country's cases of congenital syphilis. Then again, I was just saying this. When you really pin the numbers down, you get an even further concentration, and you see this: 80% of those cases are in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas. Guys, we gonna play like we don't know the people who dominate, who populate Houston heavily, populate Dallas heavily, Fort Wayne area, San Antonio. We gonna play, right? All right, we'll play. Early detection and treatment can lessen the chance of a pregnant person passing the disease to their unborn child. Texas law requires expectant mothers to get tested for syphilis, HIV, and hepatitis B during their first prenatal checkup. But mothers-to-be who don't have access to regular prenatal care often remain unaware and untreated. And there are stark disparities in testing and treatment for Black, so-called Black, and Hispanic pregnancies. How early should congenital syphilis be identified and treated to avoid negative outcomes? How does the disease present in pregnant people and newborns? What are the biggest health risks for babies born with congenital syphilis? What factors are contributing to the rise of congenital syphilis cases in Texas? Because they won't sit they hot rocket pocket down. I can answer that for you. May I? It's a lack of sitting your hot rocket pocket down. Why is the problem worse in Texas than other states? And in certain Texas cities more than others? Because it's people that we not allowed to hold accountable for nothing. Predominantly in these situations. Oh, ghetto, that's messed up. Why would you say that? Ghetto, that's not right. You shouldn't assume such things, ghetto. Ghetto, that's really wrong to say that all of a sudden, you know for sure, you know for certain that so-and-so and such and such is doing so-and-so and such and such. Cut it out, y'all. When we gonna be grown up about these things? When is enough enough? When do we actually want to see changes in our community? Or are we too busy supporting our own destruction and demise to say, hey, maybe we should slow it up. Maybe we should relax. Maybe brothers should get some better discipline. And maybe sisters need to sit their hot rocket pockets down for a while. Have several seats with your hot rocket pocket. 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 I don't know, man. What's being done to break down structural barriers and improve access to prenatal care, especially in underserved communities, and close gaps in physician knowledge about the importance of testing treatment during pregnancy? Fox 4 News, Texas doctors concerned about rising number of babies born with syphilis. Article from September 23rd, 2024. So this article is just from a few days ago. The State Department says the numbers over the last 5 years are concerning. The number of Texas babies born with sexually transmitted diseases is on the rise. The state Health Department says the numbers over the last 5 years are concerning. Between 2017 and 2022, there was 400 cases. 400 cases. For a 400% increase in the number of cases of congenital syphilis. Damn, I don't know how to read. I told y'all I went to school for French fries. The problem is they don't give out degrees in French fries. So I was just kind of wasting my mom's money. It was bad. Anyway, let's go. Shout the moms. My French fry degree gonna pay off one day. I promise you, mama. Anyway, between 2017 and 2022, there was a 400% increase in the number of cases of congenital syphilis. We locally have definitely seen those same significant increases in numbers, and it has also been seen nationally, said Dr. Philip Huang with Dallas County Health and Human Services. A summit was held Friday in Houston about congenital syphilis, babies born with sexually transmitted disease. The spike in congenital syphilis is probably a multifold problem. No, it's a they won't sit they hot rocket pocket down problem. Hot rocket pocket, 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 hot rocket pocket. All right now. I'm about to drop the remix. One is syphilis had almost completely gone away and had become much more rare. And so because of that, a lot of physicians and providers had not been testing or testing for it as much. Well, what made it go away and why is it now back? What has changed in society that would bring back such diseases? As the last report said, this should have happened 100 years ago. I'm sorry, when I was doing part 3, if you haven't checked out parts 1 through 3 of this series, make sure you go back and check out the playlist. But in part 3, one of the reports I was reading was like, yo, this is something that should have happened 100 years ago. It's 2024 and we're having a syphilis outbreak. This is insanity. No, it's ass sanity, sir. I hate to be vulgar, guys. Forgive me. It's ass sanity. You know what I'm saying? It's not insanity. It's ass sanity. You know what I'm saying? It's ass sanity and hot rocket pocket sanity. All right. State law changed in 2019 requiring 3 tests for syphilis during pregnancy. The first prenatal test, during 3rd trimester, and at delivery. Women who are not being told about the testing should ask about it, and new technology make testing easier. We also probably picked up a bunch of cases that we didn't know about prior. The women generally don't become impregnated by themselves, usually, so I think testing their partners and testing other sexually active men is also an important part of this. What do you mean, other sexually active men? Are you saying other men they're sexually active with? The infection is treatable with a shot of penicillin. The shot can, because other sexually active men would have nothing to do with a woman getting a disease unless they were being sexually active with her. So are you saying she is having multiple partners that all need to be tested? Okay, then we should say that clearly and stop playing games with it. The infection is treatable with a shot of penicillin. The shot can prevent debilitating illnesses in newborns, or even worse, if it is untreated, it can be a 40% fatality rate among the babies that are born, said Huang. Information from this article came from the Dallas County Health and Human Services and the Texas Center for Infectious Disease Associates. My God, gang, I think we're gonna leave it right there for this Too Hot for Cool and the Gang part 4. Let me know what you think. The email's at the bottom. Support the movement, family. Support the movement. $ his ghetto point of view. $ his ghetto point of view. $ his ghetto point of view. Thanks so much to everybody who continues to support the wave. And as always, I'm thankful to the Most High for all the blessings he continues to pour out and bestow on my family and myself. And praise to the Most High for all the blessings. Thank you to the Most High for all the blessings. I'm forever in gratitude to the Most High for all the blessings he bestows on myself, my family, and you and your family, gang. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. We gonna get out of here. Much love to y'all. Peace to the tribe. Peace to the tribe. Peace to the tribes. We out, family.
Thank you for coming. I'll see you in hell.
Thanks for coming, family. Peace and love. Catch you on part 5. Check out the playlist.